If you are having someone, you're having trouble learning the technique, it's all right to remember, let them practice for a week, come back. It's the practicing. But a lot of times they'll say, well, what we just did, should I use my right hand or my left hand? Choices. But then let them try the other hand at different times. Give them things to help them, force them to practice. The other thing you can do is if they seem to have trouble getting their focus high enough for caressing, is this partner-assisted warm-up, where instead of doing what you did on yourself, you work with them, and you stand at about a 45, because you're going to put 1 or 2 fingers right on the tip of their nose. If you're standing at the side of them, when you go to try and touch at that mid-forehead, you can't see as easily the right level. If you stand in front of them, there's no way you're not going to push too hard. So this kind of 45 works, but what happens is you bring your fingers up and they follow the touch with their attention to that mid-forehead level, and then you tap and bring your hand away. So it looks like come up, touch, go in, caress. The first 2 commands, if you were working with a group, you're leading it and there's someone else in my place, are to the person standing, to come up and touch, then they immediately take their hand away. The second 2 commands, go in, caress, are for the person sitting in the chair. Now this is where glasses. Again, a little humor never hurts. Should I have my glasses on, glass it off? If you're the person standing, please have your glasses on. If you're the sitting person, have them take their glasses off because the bumping the glasses distracts. But you do 4 or 5 like that. You may have noticed that I always said 1 more and an extra. Because the biggest thing to overcome in mind-body is the over-trying reflex. So a lot of times when people think, okay, we're done, they relax and they don't try too hard and they get it better on that last one. But you do 5 or 6 of those, then you say, let's do the biomagnetic field version, and instead you do come up, pulse, go in, caress. Come up, pulse, go in, caress. And believe me, I've done radio shows where you just describe where those fibers are and people call in and go, I can trigger them. These are all extra warm-ups for people who are tight, have layers of PTSD to unwind, they maybe trust issues, they don't know you that well. So they're little things to help you get a higher percentage of success. And then what I'm going to say to you next applies to everybody. You could go, oh, I forgot to check everybody's background. We all have different experience levels. Please raise your hand if you learned to write in 2 hours. Anybody learn to read in 2 hours? What's my point? To mastery, everything is practice. This learns way easier than reading or writing, but they're not necessarily going to get it to perfection in one 30-minute session. Getting them out there and practicing. One of the best places to practice this is when you're just a little tense, like stuck in traffic. You know how you grab the steering wheel and it's like if I squeeze the steering wheel tighter, the traffic will move faster? If you go up and caress at that level, you find you untighten your hands. But after you've done these 2 versions, thank you, you then say, how many of you preferred the version where you had the actual touch? And how many of you preferred more the pulse version? This is if you were teaching it in a group setting. And when you do enough of these, it divides out almost 50-50. That's that illustration of the choices. But then, if you go back to having them practice do it with themselves, that's where you say, do the one you preferred. If you actually preferred the touch, bring your hand in and touch. If you preferred the pulse, bring your hand in a pulsing action. And you lead it to the way the majority of the group preferred. If the majority of the group preferred the non-touch, then you would lead come up, pulse, go in, caress. And you tell the people who preferred the touch, when I say pulse, you go all the way in with your hand and touch yourself. If the majority of the group preferred the touch, you lead it as come up, touch, go in, caress, and you tell the people who preferred the pulse that instead of touching, when you say touch, they just do the pulse and bring their hand up. Everybody clear on that? All right, but then you say what we said before you take the break. We're not there yet. You can't report to your ship and go, oh yeah, Captain, I'm glad to see you, yeah. We want to learn to be able to do this with our mind, and that's the next level of practice. And the best way to get people practicing that with you is to have them think about something in the next week that they're going to do that's got some tension to it, or someone that's a difficult person for them to work with, and you have them bring it to mind, and as it builds the pressure, you say, don't put up with it, do the technique to soothe. Now, bring to mind is different for different people. If someone's very visual, bring it to mind means see the scenery, see the place at the command, they're not going to have that conflict, or the relative they're going to deal with, or the office they're going to deal with. For other people, they don't visualize at all, but maybe they hear the dialogue in their mind if they're very auditory. It's almost like they hear the offending or irritating things that are going to be said. If they're a very feeling person, they may not see anything, hear anything, but they can feel how that's going to be tight, or if they're high intuition, they just know it's going to be a challenge. Whatever works for them, you have them build the pressure, and then you say, bring your mind up and caress at that level. Now, I lived and worked with the Navy in Italy for 4 years. It is virtually impossible for me to talk without using my hands. Okay? So when I say bring your mind up and caress, I don't want you sitting there raising your hand. I'm just demonstrating. You're doing it without using your hands. You're just taking your focus above eye level and caressing. And you can start thinking about caressing in pulses. Remember what I said doesn't work is stabbing a single point? So a lot of people like picturing a pendulum. So they get caress, caress. We also have, you've been given the text of the iPhone app of this. My full book on it, Access Your Brain's Joy Center. This has all kinds of extra variations for weight control, pain control, etc., etc. This is in 5 foreign languages. My older boy, my marketing engineer, goes, Dad, my friends don't read books. And then he says, and you're dumb, Dad. You give away more in the $15 book than the $90 instructor the counseling session. I go, Brian, we're public ed nonprofit. That's our purpose. And since Dad can never have the last word, he's still at that age. He goes, well, my friends don't read books. I said, okay, get your stressed out computer friends to help me do an iPhone app. And that's what this is. It's called iFree Relief. It does cost $2.99 because even with a nonprofit, we have to pay, Ma Bell and American Airlines and all that. We wanted eye relief, but it was already a Japanese herb company. But the concept is once you know this, you own it for the rest of your life. This has at least the text that's on that. And it has an extra advanced step. Many people find that the way they like getting the more than one caress, the pulsing, is they picture a wheel. Like if you took a wheel off a bicycle and put a light on it and spun the wheel, so each time the light went through at that level, it was giving you a pulse. Some people like that, or a water wheel. The water keeps the wheel going, but it brings the flow of water right through that area. So I'm going to lead you through the basic eyes closed, visualizing, and say, add the extra wheeling or looping and try that before we finish. Okay? So, deep breath, blow it out, relax, and close your eyes. As you close your eyes, start to bring to mind that thing, something you have in the next week, next couple days, next week, that you know has got some tension to it. It's going to be either dealing with a challenging person or a difficult situation, or something where you feel responsible and all that pressure. And just bring it to mind by either visualizing the setting or hearing the dialogue or feeling it's going to be pressured. And let that pressure build, but then don't put up with it. As you feel that pressure build, take your mind up and caress right at that mid-forehead level. You don't need to use your hand. We're practicing without the hand now, just with your mind caressing at that level. Either like strumming the harp or a pendulum going back and forth strumming the harp. But with each caress, unwind a notch. Feel the weight coming off the shoulders. And then try the wheeling. Either picture a bicycle wheel or a water wheel or just a tunnel of energy, but the constant loops and pulses going right through that area. So each pulse mellows you. Give yourself 1 or 2 more pulses, and then just gently open your eyes.